Hi, my name is Songe LaRon. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Squire, and Squire is an operating system for barbershops. We make point-of-sale software, business management, and pretty much everything that these small business owners need to run their business. We have about 200 employees. We're operational in the US, UK, and Canada, and we've raised up to Series D about $160 million in total. So Squire has over 200 employees now. For the first 5 years or so, 4 or 5 years, we went from from 1 to about 30 employees. And then from 2019 to 2022, we went from 30 to over 200 relatively quickly. In the early days, my co-founder Dave and I would do all the interviewing. I would say for the first 50 employees. Now, it's just not feasible for us to speak with everybody anymore. Particularly in a distributed company, the way ours is, where a lot of our employees work remotely. So candidates who are director level and below are not interviewed by my co-founder and I, they're interviewed by members of our executive team. And in those interviews, it's very important for the executive team members to ask behavioral questions that will help elicit the values and behaviors that those candidates have expressed in their previous jobs. When evaluating candidates, some companies try to optimize for culture more or skill set more or vice versa. At Squire, we believe that both are really necessary. So if a candidate has all the skill sets that are required for a particular role, but really doesn't share the same culture and values as Squire, we think that they wouldn't be the right candidate. And similarly in the other way as well. In the early stages of the company, the type of employee profile that you're going to hire for is going to be significantly different from later stage. When you're hiring early on, the employees will usually be more risk takers, more generalists. You really want to optimize for people who are really motivated, hustlers, hungry, highly intelligent, just the type of person that can just get shit done. Because most likely they're going to be wearing a lot of different hats and they'll need to be able to learn really quickly and just figure things out. As the company grows, there'll be much more of a pressure to start hiring for expertise and specific skill sets and specific experience. You're going to want to start looking for people who have been at your company's scale and beyond before and know the blueprint and know what to do to help your company grow into that scale. So one of the painful things or the hard decisions that you're going to have to make as you scale is that inevitably some of your early employees who helped you get to where you are won't necessarily be the people who are going to take you to the next level. And at this time, a lot of founders struggle, myself included, to know which employees have what it takes to get us to the next level and to know when to make the tough decision of either replacing them or hiring somebody over them. But ultimately, it's your job to be really focused on that because you need the right people in the seats that have the experience to scale your company to the next level of growth. Unfortunately, oftentimes, those employees who helped your company grow to where it is now, to the growth stage, are not going to be the employees who are going to help it get to the following level and scale to even higher. At those moments, you need to be really focused on moving quickly to sometimes replace them. And sometimes it's difficult to know. So some of the things that you'll need to look for is that these employees will often struggle hitting their numbers. It will be challenging for them to recruit A players in their departments. And oftentimes, they're very loyal to the company and they don't want to leave, but they feel the pressure, so they make excuses and they finger point as to why they're not being successful. You have to be objective enough to see the truth of the matter and don't let your loyalty or your friendship with them blind you to the fact that they may not be the right person for that role. Oftentimes when you are hiring for senior executives, it can be very challenging, especially in this super competitive hiring market. And sometimes when it's challenging, it can take a long time to find the right person. and you may be interviewing dozens and dozens of candidates to fill the role. When that happens, what can occur is what I call hiring fatigue. You just get so tired of interviewing, and you feel a pressure to just find somebody to fill the role. And when that happens, you can end up choosing the wrong person. I've done that. I've made that mistake before. So it's very important to be mindful of your energy, of how much energy you have to commit to the hiring process, and do things that will help mitigate the risk of potentially having hiring fatigue. One of the things that I recommend is that you be very intentional about scheduling your interviews. Try to compact as many as you can into a condensed time period instead of drawing them out over weeks. For example, it's better to interview 10 people in 1 week than it is to interview that same 10 people over the course of a month. This will allow you to really have them in mind as you're interviewing and make a decision faster versus letting the time just draw on. Another thing that I'd recommend is to take a break in between hiring when necessary. So if you've been just heads down interviewing candidates for weeks and you're tired, it's okay. Just do a pause, recalibrate, think about the process, think about who you're going after, and don't do any interviews for a week, and just kind of reset. And then go back to it when you have more energy and you're ready to fully commit to the hiring process. Oftentimes when you're hiring for senior executive positions, you're going to use recruiting firms. And recruiting firms are great because they can help the process run more smoothly and help you find great candidates. But at the same time, you need to remember that the incentives of the recruiters is not always aligned with your incentives as a company. The recruiter essentially wants to place the candidate so they can move on to the next position and make more money, whereas you want to find the best candidate possible, as fast as possible. So that's just something to keep in mind. Oftentimes when a search is running long, what I found that recruiters will sometimes start overselling candidates because they want to fill the position. And you need to always just try to be objective and remember the incentives of all the parties you're working with, including the recruiters. Your company is really only as good as the people who work for it. So as an entrepreneur, it's really important that you focus on hiring for the right key roles for your executive team in particular, because they're going to be the people who help you get to the next level. One of the key roles that I've recently hired that has made a big difference in our organization was our VP of Sales. Our VP of Sales came in at a time when we were really thinking about how are we going to nail our go-to-market strategy, and also how can we build a sales org that can scale to 100 million plus ARR. And he came in and he really helped us establish more processes that made our go-to-market machine more robust and scalable. Another key hire that I've recently made was our Chief People Officer. Before we got to the growth stage, I really undervalued and didn't see the importance of the people department. So I made some mistakes in the past of hiring people leaders who weren't really qualified for the position. After making those mistakes, I started focusing much more on that department and how important it is. And the Chief People Officer, who has joined us recently, is incredibly skilled and has been in companies that have grown beyond where Squire is, and really has super technical skills that are really important. That's one of the things that I didn't really appreciate, was how technical that role should be if you're filling it with the right person. These are the two key roles that were really impactful for Squire that we hired recently. But as an entrepreneur, it's your job to find the roles that are important for your company to help you scale to the next phase of growth.